Kwa kupika huwa natumia mafuta taa.
Mimi hutumia jiko kwa sababu naona hiyo ndio rahisi na ndio ile ninaweza. Kupika napika nikitumia mafuta na stove. Lakini pia wakati ule nataka kupika kitu kama githeri, viazi, mimi hupika kutumia pia stima.
Energy is life. We all need energy all the time. Lack of power remains a major obstacle to any progress in global development. That is why everyone, every household and every business strive to access some form of energy for a range of uses. Kenya, like many other developing countries, is grappling with growing demand for energy. Currently, 34% of Kenya's population is urbanized. This is projected to increase about 50% by the year 2030.
Energy and its efficiency and its availability is what has defined development.
According to the United Nations Development Programme, energy is central to sustainable development and poverty reduction effort. It affects all aspects of development, social, economic and environmental, including livelihoods, access to water, agricultural productivity, health, population levels, education and gender-related issues. UNDP maintains that none of the Millennium Development Goals can be met without major improvement in the quality and quantity of energy services in developing countries.
The poor spends more on energy, by and large, because both directly and indirectly, in the sense that the impacts of the charcoal that is used by these people.
In recognition of the importance of energy access for sustainable economic development and supporting achievements of the MDGs,
it's important that we treat energy as a security element, not just an additional aspect in our production strategy.
Energy is central in nearly every major challenge and opportunity the world faces today, from jobs, security, climate change, food production, or increasing incomes. Access to sustainable energy for all is essential for strengthening economies, protecting ecosystems, and achieving equity. The very least we can do is wake up to the fact that everyone deserves a light. To improve human living standards of the urban poor to the level of those in developed countries requires a new source of energy that is clean, inexhaustible, and more cheaper. Inhabitants of informal settlements have to contend with crowded and substandard housing, unsafe drinking water, a lack of basic sanitation, insecure tenure, and a lack of access to education and health services.
Mimi hutumia jiko kwa sababu naona hiyo ndio rahisi na ndio ile ninaweza.
Kwa kupika huwa natumia mafuta taa.
It's a disaster when I talk about wood fuel for me, when I talk about charcoal. For every piece of charcoal I see 100-year-old tree dead.
Expanding access to electricity and safe water is a key goal set by Kenya's Vision 2030, the government's Marshall Development Plan. But energy remains a rare product, especially for the world's poor, and Kenya is not exempted in this bracket.
For you to be called a middle-income country, you need between 5,000 and 7,000 kilowatt hours per capita. Kenya is at 154. That's how badly we are doing.
Kenya's current electricity demand is 1,191 megawatts, while the effective installed capacity under normal hydrology is 1,429 megawatts. Generation capacities of hydro is 52.1%, geothermal is 13.2%, biogas is 1.8%, and wind is at 0.4%. Fossil-based thermal contributes 32.5%.
We need 45,000 megawatts to realize Vision 2030. This talk of 17,000 megawatts, 20,000 megawatts is complete lack of ambition.
Successful implementation of the flagship projects highlighted in the vision will greatly depend on supply of adequate, reliable, clean and affordable energy. In particular, the demand for electricity is on the rise since it is a prime mover of the commercial sector of the economy.
Electricity, for example, the demand is so high that even the generation and the supply system is unable to cope.
Energy poverty refers to the situation of large numbers of people in developing countries whose well-being is negatively affected by very low consumption of energy, use of dirty or polluting fuels, and excessive time spent collecting fuel to meet basic needs. It is inversely related to access to efforts to reduce energy poverty.
We are not going to rule out the fact that even as the informal settlements stand now, they are supplied with electrical energy. And this electrical energy, illegal as it may be, exposes them to very serious dangers, for one. And two, is highly costly, because the people who are tapping it from the various power sources are supplying it to these households at prices that are way above what the electrical companies, or Kenya Power for that matter, are charging to the regular users who are metered.
Energy is expensive, both to the nation and to the individual.
Kwa sahi makaa iko juu sana sana. Kwa mkebe nikianza, mkebe moja ilikuwa inauzwa mbao, kwa sahi mkebe iko 50. Kwa hivyo kwa siku natumia makaa ya 2. Hivyo the end of the month naweza kuwa natumia kitu kili 6.
The Ministry of Energy is expected to play a facilitative role in energy supply by creating an enabling environment for private sector-led growth through policy formulation and development of an appropriate legal and regulatory framework and oversight responsibility. However, the energy sector's inability to control market prices still push many consumers to inefficient energy sources whose continued use deplete the environment as much as it impacts negatively on human health.
When you burn kerosene in a house that is poorly ventilated and congested in terms of the spacing, you're already exposing all the persons within that household unit to very serious health risks. It may not manifest itself immediately, but subsequently, over time, people start to get other forms of diseases that are clearly associated with the exposure to these types of energy.
Ignorance also has a share of the blame when it comes to hazardous side effects of certain fuel energy sources.
When you live in a small house, you got to know when to cook and when to stay in the house.
The big question is, how can affordable quality energy for all Kenyans be realized? Some of these answers lie with enhancing Kenya's power generation capacity, increasing access to electricity, including targeted approach to cover the urban poor, development of new and renewable sources of energy, ensuring security of fossil fuel resources, and last by no means least, capacity building of the energy sector.
One would be to have an economic structure that helps us to literally get rid of what we call urban poor, which means give them more opportunities to make more money to be able to afford energy. Another element is to look for efficient ways of distribution so that it becomes cheaper to access and pay for it.
Organizations like Civil Society Urban Development Program and Umande Trust have come up with interventions that aid the poor living in diverse urban environments to overcome energy poverty.
One of the most prominent intervention strategies that CSUDP has engaged in is basically the one where we're using what we call the unwanted material of the humans in these congested settlements, which is the human waste, and trying to use that human waste to convert it into some energy form. That is through the digestion, what we call the biodigestion.
We are researching on use of ethanol as a biofuel, and also we are testing the clean cook stoves with the urban communities in Kisumu.
Hata sinunui mafuta, wananisaidia na mafuta, na nilikuwa napikia kwa kuni, na siku hizi sipiki kwa kuni, natumia hiyo stove. Kitambo vilikuwa napikia kuni, nilikuwa napikia nje na mvua, lakini saizi napikia stove, napikia ndani.
Bioethanol burns very cleanly, and in the process of burning it only releases water and carbon dioxide, and these are not polluting. These are very healthy, and when released into the living environment, they have no side effects, there's no pollution, and there are very little, I would say zero, impact on the health of the people.
Njia yake ni rahisi kutumia, hatoi moshi. Wakati tulikuwa tunapika na kuni, hata kifua ilikuwa nauma sisi sana.
Umande Trust is focusing on projects that transform human waste into cheap and clean energy in form of biogas. One standard biodigester produces at least 12 cubic meters of biogas. 1 cubic meter of biogas will generate 4,500 to 5,500 kilocalorie cubic meters of heat energy when burning effectively. This heat is sufficient to boil 100 liters of water or light a lamp with brightness of 60 to 100 watts for 4 to 5 hours. 30 cubic meters of biogas is equivalent to 18 liters of diesel oil. Umande Trust is spearheading this initiative through a unique twin approach that answers the call for provision of dignified sanitation to the underprivileged in informal settlements as it responds to the dwellers' high demand for fuel energy.
One of the things we're trying to do is custom make a small kind of bag that can be used per household. So with this bag, maybe you pay 20 shillings. The business model is that you pay 20 shillings and you can charge the biogas whatever time. When it gets over in a day, you just charge 20 shillings. One of the issues is to link it from the power centers. So we custom make like a small cubic meter of a bag and fill in the biogas and give it to people, maybe in a savings and credit scheme, or maybe using the sanitation development fund that we have, so people can repay at a smaller fee, but they're accessing the energy. So that's the kind of partnership we have with them.
This initiative will call for private sector national commitment and attract global attention to the importance of energy for development and poverty alleviation.
We've now discovered oil in Turkana. Maybe we'll have gas. But before we have that, we have to import it. But electricity produced from hydro sources, produced from geothermal sources and other local sources are our own sources. We will not be spending too much foreign currency in getting it to be available.
So we are hoping, because now there will be a lot more interest in terms of exploration, and we know some people who had indications that they can get gas in some of the areas that they have been trying to explore, that they will find gas. And once we find gas, then our whole planning could change, especially towards that direction, because it will be cheaper and it will be quicker, and we can be able to put those power plants much faster.
So upgrading in this context is, are we able to provide minimal or optimal structures that can absorb this particular electrical energy? For one, are we able to provide sufficient stopgap measures that can then mitigate against risks that are associated with electrical energy supply? Because the moment we have electrical faults, for that matter, then you're looking at huge disasters in the informal settlements in the way they're structured now.
Is there a more lovable energy source than solar power? Its fuel is light from the sun, which is free and available almost anywhere. It is entirely clean to run. It is easy to install and maintain.
We are providing not just a water kiosk that provides water in itself, but the Habitat models of the kiosk also provide opportunity for solar panels.
So the solar panels are meant to, as you're waiting for your jerry can to get full, you're charging your mobile phone there, and maybe you're buying something from there. And the other option is also maybe some have M-Pesas, so you can also do your M-Pesa transaction there. So it's all this in a one-stop shop. You get some of the kind of water kiosks that are existing, they would close at around 6, 7 because of security issues, because of lighting issues. But now using the solar panels, we are extending the period of service. You'll see some of them are servicing people until 9 p.m., which is good because that's when most of the people are coming back from work.
Most of our supply right now, over 60% of it is hydro. And even worse, it comes from the same catchment area, that is the eastern, the Tana River. So the moment we have drought, like we have had in 2000, we had in 2009, you end up having about 50% of your power supply not available.
With Kenya's oil strike in Turkana, it is important to know that fossil fuels and other conventional energy sources have negative externalities, including pollution and public health impact, and the fossil fuel extraction has been shown to correlate with higher levels of poverty, child mortality and malnutrition, civil war, corruption, authoritarian government, and gender inequality. Experts say a dual focus on increasing access to energy services for the world's poorest and promoting clean sources of energy is a win-win scenario for development and the environment. Access to sustainable sources of clean, reliable, and affordable energy has a profound impact on multiple aspects of human development. It relates not only to physical infrastructure, like electricity grids, but also to energy, affordable, reliable, and commercial viability. In practical terms, this means delivering energy services to households and businesses that are in line with consumers' ability to pay. UNDP's efforts in energy for sustainable development support the achievement of universal access to modern energy for the poor, enhance quality, security, and affordability of modern energy. Investing in clean, efficient, affordable, and reliable energy systems is indispensable for a prosperous, environmentally sustainable future. Ensuring energy security will require diversification of types and sources of energy, with increasing focus on consumer needs, on indigenous energy supplies, energy efficiency, and regional interconnections. A guarantee of universal access to energy is a sure way of combating energy poverty and of lifting poor people upwards in their living standards. It is a doable and creative partnership.